Hi there, my name is Josh, and today I'm going to walk through how to play my arrangement of Still Crazy After All These Years by Paul Simon. This is my arrangement, which is based on a couple of things that I'll discuss. It's not necessarily the way that Paul would have ever performed it, but it's designed to capture some of the studio recording just on solo guitar while being accompanied by voice, either yourself or, playing for another singer. You can see my full original performance of the video at the link right up here. This video is intended to be an accompaniment to the official tab for this song, which was put together by the wonderful people at SoundSlice. And you can find a link in the description to that. If you've never worked with SoundSlice before, the tabs are amazing. First of all, it's super accurate, and it plays along in time with my performance video of the song, bar for bar, and you can change the speed to any speed that you want, and it's really an excellent way to digest the song. So I'm not going to be quite as surgical in this tutorial as I would normally be because the tab exists and it's really good. I just want to talk through some of the parts that might need a little additional explanation, and with that in mind, let's dive right in. So, as you can see, I have a capo on the 3rd fret, and I'm in drop D tuning, which means that we're going to be playing this song in the key of F. And this is not the key of the studio version. This is a key that suits my voice, which is why I chose it. But I also chose the shape of D because there's a video of Paul Simon on the Dick Cavett show in the early 70s where he plays a partially written version of this song. And he's playing it in the shape of D with no capo. He's playing it in the key of D. I met my old lover on the street last night. And those chord shapes that he was using were a big part of the inspiration for this arrangement. So I figured if he wrote it in D originally, then I can do it in whatever key suits me best. So with that in mind, we're in drop D, playing in the key of F with the capo on the 3rd fret. Let's jump right in with the introduction. These are some of the more unusual chord shapes that I use in the whole arrangement. This first one is an E major 7 with a bit of a reach here. It's just a 3-note chord. And if you want to give a little vibrato on your pinky to emulate the tremolo on the Rhodes in the original, you can if you're feeling spicy. Now this little thing here, it's difficult to play cleanly, and it may take some practice. For whatever reason, when I move from this chord to this pull-off with my ring finger to this B major 7 chord, it's hard to play it cleanly. So isolate that. There you go. And play that a few times to really get it under your fingers. This is an F sharp. And I'm going to be speaking in chords relative to the capo here. This is an F sharp augmented chord. And this is a strange fingering, but this is middle finger on the low E, pinky, ring, and then index on the G string with an open B. And you're going to roll the chord like that and then play the open B. An E minor 7. The real key to this is finding the little melodies in the guitar that you hear in the original piano part, being very selective about which strings you play and when you play them, as opposed to just, playing the full chord all at once. So when you play this E minor, this is a great example of somewhere where we really need to be conscious in our dynamics of the idea of a melody in the guitar versus accompaniment. So the melody goes bum ba da dum bum bum, and but then there's also this quiet little that comes afterwards, and we really want to differentiate the dynamics of those two. So then the verse goes like this. Just a G to a D, a very gospel-influenced voicing. A minor 7 to a G, just a one-finger G, and we're going to be using our ring finger to mute the A string. C7 add 9, same D, A, B, C sharp half diminished. Now this little maneuver you're going to be doing a lot, so get used to it. This is a an F sharp dominant 7. And we want to, again, bring out this melody that's... and I'm also hammering on to the third there with my middle finger, in addition to this partial bar, to get a little more of a bluesy thing to it. And your index finger just moves over there when it gets a chance to play an additional bar note. That's your moment to move. D7 add 9, same shape as the C, but just up 2 frets. This is like a second inversion C chord. To a what is that? Just some sort of diminished thing that is a bit of a reach. That's a bit of a pain in the butt to play this maneuver because your hand has to change shape so drastically in a short period of time. I mean, I suppose. Nah, you can't really play it as a bar chord. You have to play it like this because it sets you up better to be able to move to the diminished chord. Then you're gonna just lift. You're gonna keep these two down. The trick is making this moment feel smooth, so that it doesn't feel disjointed and that, like, there's lots of gaps in the playing. Keep your ring finger and pinky down on the 5th fret of the G and B, and they immediately get replaced by your middle and ring on the 4th and 3rd frets of the G and B. And your pinky's got to reach way up here to the 6th fret relative to the capo. And again, you're going to use a partial bar here with your index finger. And then a great gospel move here. We're going to slide into this D on the 4th and 3rd frets. Pretty straightforward chord shapes here. And then this little thing is a little pull-off, double pull-off situation back to this diminished chord. I like to do a pull-off from the 2nd to the 1st fret, and then re-articulate when it gets to the open string. And you definitely want to just play that note on the 6th fret with your pinky first. Because that will give you time to organize the rest of these fingers, but keep the melody, the ya-da-da-dum, in time with itself. So, and then this walking sixths motion again, to the A7. This is a G minor 6, and again, there's a lot of pinky work in this arrangement, you might have noticed by now, because of the drop D, but we just gotta have that drop D. This is pinky on the 5th fret of the low E, index on the 2nd fret of the D string, and middle fret on the 3rd fret of the G. After all these years. Now, unfortunately, you can't. I would really love to be able to keep this bass note sounding while you play this, but ergonomically, I was not able to find a way to do that. So you probably will have to lift off your pinky in order to begin the motion. All right, I'm going to double check my tuning, and then we'll come back with verse 2. Okay, so verse 2 proceeds in much the same way as verse 1, but to mimic the arrangement of the studio version, I'm going to start strumming some of the chords rather than plucking and rolling them with my 4 fingers. So we've just come from at the end of the chorus, and now into I'm not the kind of man who tends to socialize. We have an odd numbered bar there that we have to watch out for, so strum. We're leaving the high E out of it. Same chords as before, as verse 1, but we're just kind of giving a hard boom chuck feel here with the right hand. I like to use the pad of my thumb. It's nice and soft. And we have to go back to picking when we get to this, the F sharp 7 to B minor motion. And on we go. Again, you may need to pluck this part to get it to come out cleanly. And then we're back to the chorus, and we're plucking it with some added strums to keep time. And that delivers us to the bridge, where things really start to get interesting. This is the moment where it really feels like Paul reached into the bag of chords and made a point of using every single one that he knew in the song. So again, I know that I moved through that pretty quickly, but if you have more questions about how things are played, check out the tab on SoundSlice. It really is great. So moving on to the bridge, it starts with this D7 chord, D7 add 9. And this is one of the energetic high points of the song, so we really want to lay into the strum here. And make sure that when you play this, that high E note is sounding pretty clearly, because that common tone is what's going to make this major chord, what I'm thinking of as an E major, but in reality is a G major, because we've just changed keys to G major. That's what's going to make that key change make sense. And now in this portion of the song, we're going to have to be thumbing the low string a lot of the time, because we're in drop D, but we're playing in E. 4 in the morning. Yeah, so you want to either, if you're singing it or if another singer is singing it, you want to really make sure that, bam, you land on that nice and strong so that they can find that major 7, and it's the big energetic moment that is so triumphant and delightful. 4 in the morning, crept out. This is just a garden variety B major, crabbed out, yawning. And this is an F sharp augmented. I'm playing this with my middle finger on the low E, muting the A, as I often do, my ring finger on the 4th fret of the D string, and then a partial bar with my index finger that's covering the 3rd fret of the G and B. Yawning! And then we're going to hop up here to the 6th fret and play just a standard minor 7 shape. Longing my life away. This is the same dominant 7 shape that we were playing 2 frets lower in the first half of the song, just up higher now. Longing, yawning, longing my life away, to a pretty standard major 7 shape here. And you must make sure not to let the high E ring, because that is a profoundly dissonant note in that spot. Life away. Down 2 frets to a B minor 7. I never worry. And this is just a F sharp major to a G major. Why should I? So just D to a A minor 7, and then I play a little lick here that is mimicking the Michael Brecker saxophone that's starting to happen all around Paul. This is a slide from the 2nd to the 4th fret. Back to this G shape. It's all gonna fade. And it just kind of, there's a lot of weird sort of like a day in the life-y type stuff happening here in the studio version. I've just sort of simplified it to a little back and forth motion between a G major and an F sharp minor, which eventually lands on this E minor. In the original, we get the incredible Michael Brecker saxophone solo that's super iconic, and I've done sort of a reduced version here. If you're not feeling up for it or in the mood for it, oftentimes when I perform this, I will just go, now I sit by my window, and I'll just go straight to verse 3. But if you're interested in trying to play my version of the solo, then here we go. So you're going to play a little arpeggiated E major. So this is a partial bar on the 2nd fret with the index finger. Again, a big theme in this song. And you can make sure that the B string is open. This is an A major chord with an E in the bass. And we want to make sure that you can roll that in a way that's rhythmic, because we want to really make sure that even though we've got this soaring melody happening, that the groove is still really cooking underneath. So I like to just play all that with my thumb and use a hammer-on to give that extra note. You could use some combination of plucking and thumb strum there if you want, but the key is just groove. Yeah. So this, now I'm playing a full bar with my index so that we can do this. Your pinky really has to do a lot of work here to play that hammer on and then over to the 5th fret to a D with a hammer on. And so we're going to slide up into this A. You can either do it as a bar, or if it's more comfortable with 3 fingers, And then way up here to the 12th fret. So this little maneuver here after the 12th fret is the 5th fret and the 7th fret with your index and middle, and a hammer on with your pinky. And if you're a really bad you can go hammer on with a slide and then a pull off with your pinky. Because that's the actual ornamentation that Brecker plays. But that is very hard to get on the fly. It's a big stretch, and your pinky has to be very strong and your action very low. I would never attempt that in a real performance, but up into a big E major. And our fingers are really pretty scrunched at this point, but you have to play it. Bringing out that melody because that's what the sax is doing. And then we do this big, nice gospel-y walk up here. And I like to keep my thumb doing this kind of like a kick drum during that. This is Steve Gadd's right foot here. And this is just a partial bar with your ring finger 2 frets higher to an A major. This is a nice D with a hammer on. Slide all the way up into that F sharp. We want to really get some sass in that articulation. To a 4-3-4 slide, which then resolves to this A. And we're home free. So yeah, that solo is a real handful, but one more time slowly all the way through. That's we're going to really bring the volume back down here because we're just really cool people, you know, that's what you do. And we got to be like, oh yeah, my solo's done, like, oh, it's nothing, you know, I'm just going to. Now I sit by my window and I watch the cars. These chords are all familiar. I fear I'll do some damage one fine day. And this is where things change. It's right in the middle of this F sharp 7 turnaround. We're going to go to the 4th fret instead of the 3rd. And we're going to walk up some big open 6ths. And voila, we're back in the key of G, or E, relative to the capo. Will not be convicted to an E7 by a jury of my peers. A to an A sharp diminished. Still crazy, and I like to play a little walk up here. Crazy after. So this is with some nice ringing B in there. Crazy after. And you can try and keep your thumb down there, but you might have trouble with the A ringing. After all, this is a nice, flavorful B dominant. All these years, a full diminished off the B dominant. B sharp, C diminished. to a C sharp minor 7. Wow. And now there should be a walk down here. But if you're singing it yourself and you need to prepare for whoa, I don't think you're going to want to worry about, because that's a little clunky to play. If you're accompanying somebody or you're just feeling, you know, like it's really happening for you, then go for it. Whoa. Back to this diminished. Still crazy. Still crazy. We're going to sort of hint back at our gospel roots here. Still crazy. And use the palm to mute that. Still crazy after all these years. And that is it. So, that is the full arrangement of Still Crazy After All These Years. I know that I moved pretty quickly through a lot of this and didn't explain in excruciating detail, and I apologize for the fret numbers that I almost inevitably said wrong. But again, I really just wanted to clarify some of the overarching ideas of this arrangement in this video and zoom in on some of the trickier segments. I encourage you to check out the Sound Slice link, and it's run actually by my friend Adrian Holovati, who you might know from the When I'm 64 video. He's a polymath and a wonderful human being. So check that out, and if you have any questions about this arrangement, specifically, I will try to get to them in the comments below. So best of luck, and don't get discouraged. This is a pretty tricky one, even if you're not trying to sing it. So happy picking.